The sun had barely kissed the horizon when Amara's bare feet touched the dusty earth of the village square. At 16, she had learned that dawn was her sacred time, the only moment when the world belonged to her alone. She closed her eyes and began to move, her body swaying to a rhythm only she could feel, her arms flowing like water finding its path. The dust rose around her ankles in small clouds, catching the golden light as she spun and leaped with an abandon that would disappear once the village awoke. Amara had been born into silence, while other children grew up with the thunderous beats of the talking drums, the melodious songs of their mothers, and the laughter that filled the evening air. Amara lived in a world of profound quiet. But silence, she had discovered, was not emptiness. Silence had textures, rhythms, and its own kind of music that lived beneath her skin. Her mother, Naneka, was the first to find her that morning. She stood at the edge of the square, her wrapper pulled tight against the morning chill, watching her daughter dance with tears streaming down her face. Naneka had learned to sign when Amara was just 3 years old, traveling to the city to learn from teachers who understood the language of hands. Now, as Amara finally noticed her presence and stopped dancing, Naneka's hands moved with practiced grace. "You dance like the wind, my daughter, beautiful and free." Amara smiled, but her hands replied with the heaviness she carried in her heart. "Beautiful, yes, but Mama, I dance alone, always alone." This was the truth that haunted Amara every single day. In a village where drums were the heartbeat of life, where every celebration, every ceremony, every moment of joy was expressed through dance and rhythm, Amara remained on the outside looking in. She could see the dancers move, their bodies responding to something she could never access. She could see the drummers' hands flying across the taut skins of their instruments, see the vibrations in the air, but the sound itself was a mystery locked away from her forever. Her younger brother, Chidi, burst into the square moments later, his skinny legs pumping as he ran toward them. At 12, he had appointed himself as Amara's bridge to the hearing world, constantly trying to describe what music felt like, looked like, tasted like. His hands moved frantically as he signed. "The drums last night at the festival, Amara. I wish you could have heard them. They were like thunder rolling across the sky, but also like raindrops, and then like birds taking flight all at once." Amara laughed at his enthusiasm, her hands moving gently. "You make it sound like magic." "It is magic," Chidi insisted. Then his face grew serious. "But your dancing is magic too. Better magic. Yesterday, I saw you practicing behind the compound. You move like you can hear something none of us can." If only the rest of the village saw it that way. As the sun climbed higher and the square filled with people preparing for the day's market, Amara caught the familiar glances, the pitying smiles, the whispered conversations that stopped when she walked past. She had developed thick skin over the years, but some mornings the weight of their pity felt heavier than others. The village center was already bustling when the drums began to sound. Not the ceremonial drums, but the announcement drums, calling everyone to gather. Amara felt the vibrations through the ground before she saw people moving. She had learned years ago to press her fingertips to surfaces, to read the world through touch. The earth spoke to her in ways it didn't speak to others. Every footfall, every drumbeat, every door closing sent ripples through the ground that she could interpret like words. Elder Okonkwo stood in the center of the square, his white beard catching the sunlight, his staff planted firmly in the ground. The crowd pressed close, and Amara found herself pushed to the back as usual. But she could see his mouth moving, see the excitement rippling through the crowd. Chidi materialized beside her, his hands flying.
The Harvest Dance Competition. In 3 months, the winner performs at the regional festival and represents our village. Amara, every dancer in the village will compete. Amara's heart lurched. The Harvest Dance Competition was the most important event of the year. It was where dancers proved their skill, where reputations were made, where the village's pride was determined. She watched as young women around her began chattering excitedly, their hands already moving in practice gestures, their feet tapping out rhythms. That's when the idea seized her, bold and terrifying and absolutely impossible. Her hands moved before her mind could stop them. I want to compete. Gidi's eyes went wide. Amara, are you serious? I've never been more serious about anything in my life.